Hey guys, what's going on? Dr. Gonzo, Boogie here again, back for another video. And in this video, I was going to talk about the Star Wars movies and show you guys my entire Star Wars Steelbook collection. I actually have all 7 of the Star Wars movies on Blu-ray Steelbook releases. And with the new Star Wars movie, Rogue One, coming out this month, which I am excited for, I'll probably go and check that one out in theaters. Looks pretty cool. Got Darth Vader in it, my favorite Star Wars character. But with that movie coming out, I felt like what a perfect time to show you guys my Star Wars Steelbook collection and just talk about the Star Wars movies in general. So let me just start off here with the Steelbook releases, which I'm about to show you guys. Actually, I have a few complaints about these Steelbook releases, even though I do really like these Steelbook releases. But for a franchise as big as Star Wars, I just feel like they could have done a little bit better on these releases here, because you get movies that are less known, like weird horror movies, that have gotten better Steelbook releases than the Star Wars movies. And the Star Wars movies are probably the biggest movie franchise, just the biggest movie thing, the biggest entertainment thing in pop culture. I mean, Star Wars, there's cartoons, toys, movies, just everything Star Wars. It's just bigger now than it ever has been. So it's like, I find it a little bit disappointing that the Star Wars films didn't really get great Steelbook releases. So, and you guys know what Steelbook releases I'm talking about here. Talking about these ones right here that you could pick up at Walmart or Target. These were really common to find last year around this time, I'm pretty sure. And you can still find them now. These really aren't hard to find. For Steelbook collectors, I would say these are probably some of the easiest Steelbooks to find. But they're still not bad. I do like these Steelbooks, like I mentioned, but I do feel like there's a few things they could have done to make these a lot better. So I'm just going to go through those real quickly before I go through the Star Wars movies. And when I go through the Steelbook release, I'll probably give you guys my opinion on each film and stuff like that. So let's just get going here. And first off, like I said, I just wanted to mention a few things that I feel like they could have done to make these Steelbooks even better than they already are. And first off, the cover artwork, I feel like could have been a little bit better. I mean, these aren't bad. This is the one for episode 4, and this is what the artwork for episode 5 looks like. It's a little bit cartoony, a little bit CG looking, and I just feel like they could have just used the original movie posters on the front cover, which is what they did use on the back of these, and just look at how much more appealing that is. Like, why is that not on the front of these? I mean, look at that picture, and then look at this picture. I mean, this is a picture that would be on, like, a Star Wars lunchbox, and this is a picture that I would hang on my wall. It's like, come on, just put the poster on the front of these, you know what I mean? So if they ever re-release these, first thing to do, put the original poster on the front of these. I mean, they just look great. And second, I forget what you call these. I think I've heard people call these like L cards before or something, but just the information slip that they put on the back of every Steelbook, which does get annoying sometimes, and these Star Wars ones are some of the most annoying I've ever had to deal with. They're very bulky and very big, and when you put them on a shelf, they tend to kind of like push the movie in front of it out a little bit. And I've actually had some of my Steelbooks tip over before because of these Star Wars ones. And if any of you guys collect Steelbooks, you know, you try to keep them in really good condition because, you know, they're nice Steelbooks and you don't want to be scuffing them up. So I don't like when my Steelbooks knock my other Steelbooks over, but that's just a little complaint. But it's like I've gotten Steelbooks that have like way better information cards that aren't as bulky and that are stuck to the back a little bit better. These ones come off real easily, and I just feel like, you know, again, with Star Wars being such a big film, it brings in so much money. It's like they could have spent a little bit more time on the packaging of these releases. That's why I do hope they put out better Steelbooks one of these days, or just better special Blu-ray editions or something like that. And then the last thing that I feel like they could have done better with these Steelbooks is I feel like they could have put more special features on these. These releases are very basic. They basically just took an already existing Star Wars Blu-ray disc. I don't know what this was from. It was probably from some box set or something like that, and they just put it in a Steelbook case. That's basically all they did. And there's like literally no special features on this. You got an audio commentary with George Lucas and the crew, audio commentary from archival interviews with the cast and crew, and that's it. It's like no, I'm not sure if there's a trailer on here or anything like that. I've watched these before. I actually just watched the first episode 4, 5, and 6. I just watched these releases of those recently, and I didn't notice if there's any other special features, honestly, but they should have put trailers on. It's like they should make like 2 disc editions of these. And on the second disc or whatever, it should be sort of like an archive of each movie. It should have every version that has ever been put out for the Star Wars movies. And yeah, I know that sounds like a little extensive, but I mean, think of a movie like Blade Runner. You can buy a Blu-ray box set that comes with every cut of Blade Runner. And Blade Runner is more of a cult film. It's like Star Wars. I mean, that's got Harrison Ford in it too, but Star Wars is so much bigger than that popularity-wise. It's like, why not do that? There's probably people who, because every time Star Wars has been re-released, either on a new format like DVD or VHS or Blu-ray, and sometimes it was just released theatrically, re-released, they re-edited it, which I'm sure you guys know. So, I mean, these versions on these Blu-ray releases, especially for the episodes 4, 5, and 6, are drastically different than the original theatrical cut. There's scenes added in, special effects are redone. I'm sure you guys know all about this, so I don't want to get too much into it, but I'm actually not a fan of that they re-edited these movies and they put new effects in, because I feel like in a way you're erasing film history, and I find that scary that like a classic movie like that can be deleted and the only version that exists is like a newer version of it. That's why I feel like the older releases of Star Wars, even like the special editions from the 90s, which were slightly different than these releases and the theatrical cuts, they should just have like an archive of like every cut of the movie just to satisfy all the fans, so there's nothing anybody can complain about. And they should do the same thing with the trailers for each release. They should have all the trailers for the re-releases, the original trailers, and everything else. And they should also put like the Christmas special and some of the other weirder stuff as special features, but probably never going to happen. If you guys agree with me on all this, definitely let me know down in the comments. But let me get to the second half of this video now, where I just wanted to go through and kind of show you these Steelbooks and talk about the Star Wars movies in general. So let's start off with Star Wars A New Hope, Episode 4, or originally just known as Star Wars. This is actually my favorite out of all the Star Wars movies, and it never used to be. Back when I was younger, I think episode 5 or 6 were my favorite, because you find out a little bit more about the story between Darth Vader and Luke, and that was the main thing that interested me in the films, with Darth Vader and all that, because he's awesome looking. But I think this is the best out of the whole series, because it's just a fun, interesting film. And around the time it came out, there's just nothing else like it. It incorporates every film genre ever. There's like elements of Western films in this, elements of samurai films with Darth Vader and Peter Cushing. You even have elements of horror movies and action adventure, of course. There's swords in these movies with the lightsabers. There's guns. Star Wars just has it all. And the original trilogy really is a great, complete story. The original Star Wars trilogy, episode 4, 5, and 6, is just such a good narrative and such a good story. I just watched a video Cinemassacre posted up recently about Star Wars, and he mentioned in that video that like the original trilogy of the Star Wars films, the story it tells basically like retells like every epic story ever made in like one story. Just such an awesome film series. I can understand why it is regarded as one of the best film series, because really the first 3 Star Wars movies have it all. Not only do they have elements of every film genre, but they also are just a great epic story that it's still an influential and still a great story to this day. And that's why the original Star Wars trilogy, I think, will always be the best out of the Star Wars films, because it's just so good. You can't top that, and you can't redo that. But Episode 4 is great. Probably my favorite one in the series. Highly, highly, highly recommend this if you guys haven't seen the Star Wars movies yet. This is the best one. Definitely the one to check out. So let's move on finally to Episode 5. The Empire Strikes Back. Cool that they have a stormtrooper on the cover of this. Most of these have villains. Actually, all these steelbooks have villains except one of them, which is another thing that I find sort of weird. I feel like the images they chose for the cover weren't that focused, because all of them are villains except one of them has Yoda on it, which I'll talk about when I get to that one. But I do like the cover design for this, because I love stormtroopers. Really good Star Wars movie here. Just great stuff, not much more I can say about the Star Wars movies than you guys already know. And if you guys haven't seen these yet, I mean, you can go and watch them. Just classic movies. Love Episode 5, though. Probably my second favorite Star Wars movie, and then my third favorite is probably Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. And we got Emperor Palpatine, or just the Emperor, on the cover here. Which, again, the image of this reminds me a lot of what the Emperor looked like in Episode 3, the last of the prequel trilogy. And, again, just feel like they could have picked a better cover on this. Actually, let me show you guys the back on this. I mean, just look at that. Like, why did they not use that on the front? Again, like lunchbox artwork compared to something I would hang on my wall. And let's just take a look at the artwork on Episode 5, too. Again, this is the artwork on the front and the artwork on the back. Again, just whoever painted that originally, I forget the name of the guy who did the Star Wars movie posters, but I mean, that's just a work of art. Where this, not really. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It's a bit disrespectful, in my opinion, that they don't use the artwork on the front of like any of the Star Wars releases anymore. And they do that with movies all the time now. They always use some shitty cover instead of using the original movie poster, when it's like the original movie poster was made by an artist, and usually they're really good, where new movie artwork is just made by some graphic designer who's like, just getting paid to do it, you know what I'm saying? It just, they don't come out quite as great anymore. You don't get the same kind of like work and quality in movie poster releases anymore, unless it's trying to be retro. The movie's trying to have like somewhat of a retro looking poster. You guys know what I'm saying. I'm like getting off in a lot of rants on this video for some reason, but now let's take a look at the prequel trilogy, which I actually am a fan of. A lot of people don't really like the Star Wars prequel films. I think that they're not that bad. I mean, they're not as good as the original Star Wars trilogy. I mean, like I mentioned, that's just a great narrative, just a great story, and just great films that incorporate so many different things in them, where the prequel trilogy is just, it's just there, it exists. And I grew up on the prequel series. Episode 1 came out, I'm pretty sure, in 1999, and I was like 8 years old at that time, so that was like the perfect age to be for like a new Star Wars movie to come out. So I was hyped up for this movie when it came out. There's Lego sets. These were like the first Lego sets that were doing something that was like movie based, that was not just like a regular Lego set, so that was exciting. They were, action figures, candy, just everything Star Wars. Like when I was a little kid, just like it is now, everything was Star Wars back in the late 90s because of Episode 1. And I remember seeing it and really liking it at the time. And recently I've watched it, and it's not that bad. I actually like it better than the other movies in the prequel trilogy, just because it's really different. It feels different than any of the other Star Wars movies. And a lot of people probably think that's a bad thing, but in a way I think that's not that bad of a thing. So this is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, with Darth Maul on the cover. This is probably my favorite cover out of all these releases. I've always liked Darth Maul. He's just got a very interesting design on his makeup, and it just makes for good cover art. But again, I would have loved to see the original movie poster on the front, which is on the back, and just, I mean, again, just look at how much more appealing that is. Just, they really missed it with that. But, again, nice looking release here for a movie that I don't think is that bad. I feel like this movie gets a lot of shit, mostly because of Jar Jar Binks, and the whole politics involved in this movie is very hard to follow for someone who really doesn't care. Either for someone who's not like big into Star Wars, like they're not gonna really care about all that stuff. But the Darth Maul lightsaber fight with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn, just classic stuff, classic samurai movie stuff. They're just epic. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. That's just a fun scene. It's got epic music in it too. It's really good. This movie's not that bad, but again, just the Star Wars prequel series in general, just I feel like they could have done a lot better on it. And some of the stuff they added in just doesn't really make sense. Like, why did Anakin Skywalker build 3CPO? It adds nothing to the story it adds nothing to the story at all that he did that. And it just kind of makes it random that later on in the series it's never brought up before when Anakin is Darth Vader. It's never like, oh yeah, you made 3CPO, because he's like all over the place in those movies. So it's very weird, but again, just nitpicky stuff right there. So episode 1, which I don't think is that bad. Actually, my least favorite thing about the Star Wars movies is not the prequel series, it's the fact that they keep messing and re-editing the original ones. That bothers me more than the prequel films. This is episode 2, Attack of the Clones, probably my least favorite out of the Star Wars movies. But one thing I always do remember about this is I still love to play the Star Wars Battlefront video games, the PlayStation 2 ones, Battlefront 1 and Battlefront 2, which I don't own anymore. And I loved those games. And there's a lot of, you play a lot of levels that are featured from this movie. So I guess I have a lot of memories of playing the Battlefront game, and they have a lot of the Clone Wars stuff. So I guess I've always liked this movie in a way for that, just because of the whole Battlefront games and all that, because those are really fun shooting games, just really fun stuff. But this is probably my least favorite in the entire Star Wars series, sadly, though. And again, this one's got Yoda on it, like I mentioned. All the other Steelbook releases have villains on the cover, except Yoda. Just very weird. You know, they could have put Jango Fett or something like that on the cover of this one. I think that would have actually been a lot cooler. And again, just the artwork on the back, 100 times better than the lunchbox artwork on the front here. So let's move on to episode 3, which I saw this one in theaters twice when it came out. Revenge of the Sith, and I was actually a pretty big fan of this when it came out. When this came out in whenever early 2000s, I was just still really big into Star Wars at that time, which I still am now. But you know, I got caught up in the hype of this one again with all the action figures and everything else, and just really enjoyed watching this one too when I saw it in theaters, because Darth Vader's always been my favorite Star Wars character, and even when I was a little kid, I knew, based on the story from the original trilogy that I used to rent and watch on VHS all the time when I was younger, you learn that Darth Vader had a deeper story behind him, that he was once a better person and he was turned to the dark side. So I was always interested to see that, to find out like what happened to make this man turn into this, you know, monstrous machine, this Frankenstein monster. And that's why I was excited for this one, to see the ending of Anakin into Darth Vader. And this movie could have done it better. It feels very rushed. There are so many other story parts going on. There's like 3 or 4 other story parts like going on while that story arc is going on. And I just feel like it really rushes past that. He just gets like chopped apart and burnt in like a few seconds, and then he's Darth Vader. And then his switch to the dark side seems very, very random. It seems kind of out of character for his character to make that drastic of a switch. So I feel like it could have been done better, but still, it was cool to see it play out on screen, since I've always imagined it when I was younger. Cool stuff here. Let's take a look at the movie poster on the back. Again, just Should have put those on the front, guys. Alright, and then the last Steelbook I have to show for this video is the Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens release, which I thought this was a great Steelbook. This is actually probably my favorite Steelbook out of all of them, just because the artwork on the front of this I actually think is really nice. Just Kylo Ren there with the lightsaber. And I just think it looks a lot better. And this is just a nice Steelbook. I think this is like a 2-disc set or something like that, which is cool too. And just to get to the film in general, I actually really enjoyed this film. I like this over any of the prequel films, and I just had a lot of fun watching this. And I feel like they did a really good job incorporating elements of the old Star Wars movies and updating it a little bit for a new audience. I feel like this movie did it really well, and I feel like it pleased everybody. In my opinion, it pleased me. I was so awesome to see Han Solo and Chewbacca together again. That just got me so excited. I was more excited about that than I thought I was going to be. When I saw it on screen finally, I was like, this is awesome. And Kylo Ren, I thought was a really good villain. And I liked all the main characters too. Finn, the like stormtrooper, the rogue stormtrooper who turns good. I feel like that's a really interesting and cool story. That coming out, I just thought that was cool. And Kylo Ren's cool. I liked all the characters in this movie, and I can't wait for Episode 8 to come out. And I am looking forward to Rogue One too. But yeah, the artwork on this. What's this character's name? Like Captain Plasma or something like that. You guys will let me know in the comments if I got that wrong. Well, that's another cool character. Actually, been a while since I've seen this. I haven't seen this since right when it came out, so I actually plan on rewatching this really soon, especially with the new Star Wars movie coming out. But alright guys, that was it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, definitely give this video a big thumbs up or leave a comment. I'll see you guys next time.